But here's our breaking news in the Sports Center out of the NBA. Steve Nash is out as head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. Jacques Vaughn will be the acting head coach tonight against Chicago. This was a mutual decision between Nash and the Nets. Just 7 games into the season, Steve Nash no longer the head coach after a 2-5 start. I just want to welcome in our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, what can you tell us about the timing and how this decision went down?
Matt, this has been a discussion within the Nets with Steve Nash and management ownership here in the last few days as this season really just started to unravel. The 4 straight losses, the Kyrie Irving situation, and even with a win last night against Indiana where they blew a 24-point lead, had to hold on at the end. I think the fact that this team had struggled so much defensively, 29th in the league going into last night, that this was becoming an inevitability. And so Jacques Vaughn will be the acting head coach tonight against the Bulls. And I'm told that the Nets are expected to inquire about a few coaches, including suspended Celtics coach Ime Udoka, who had been an assistant in Brooklyn before he went to Boston, former Jazz coach Quinn Snyder. And I think the Nets may take some time here to try to see if there is another coach beyond Jacques Vaughn to try to get this season back on track.
Yeah, because it's early enough in the season, Woj, to where 7 games in, I mean, theoretically they could make an in-season move to get a coach in. Is that why they're thinking do this now to see if we can rectify this thing?
I think that's certainly part of it. And this is certainly an organization right now that is trying to just hold it together. And listen, we know what went on in the offseason of how close this perhaps came to completely breaking apart. Kyrie Irving leaving, Kevin Durant being traded. And I think for the Nets, I think Steve Nash, as much as he had struggled to start this season with this group, especially on the defensive end, I think I'm told he had reached the end for himself as coach, and that this was very much a mutual decision. This has been certainly more than a challenging group to coach. Certainly a lot of injuries. Ben Simmons, who's not been the Ben Simmons, the all-star Ben Simmons from earlier in his career in Philadelphia so far in Brooklyn. That's been a big part of this. That's certainly been a part of the frustration. He get another game tonight with a sore knee. And so this is a Nets team that is reeling, and they've got a tough stretch ahead of them. They thought they could get some wins with the opponents they had here in the previous week. Again, back-to-back tonight with Chicago. But Steve Nash is out, and certainly Ime Udoka looms as a viable candidate in Brooklyn. I'm told that Boston will allow him to leave for another job, whether it's a head coaching job, an assistant coaching job, if he's offered it. And so certainly I think that's a consideration. And Quinn Snyder, who stepped down from the Jazz at the end of last season, certainly a high-level NBA coach. He's still technically under contract with Utah. You'd have to work out compensation with the Jazz. And certainly those are a couple of candidates. Mike D'Antoni, another coach who had been on that Nets coaching staff. He's a consultant in New Orleans. So I think you would expect the Nets to look for more of a veteran presence right now if they don't stay with Jacques Vaughn.
Well, finally for me, and we'll get you out of here, this thing in the offseason for the Nets was an absolute disaster, including Kevin Durant saying he wanted the coach out. How much of the offseason and what went on lingered into the regular season where there was just no way for this thing to be recovered?
I think there was a sense, Matt, in the preseason that they were able to get the communication back on track. They were able to talk to each other. But I think what happens with this Nets team, you've seen it before, when they hit a rough patch, there has not been staying power to fight through adversity. And I think you saw another example of that here with the way this season started and then got away from the Nets. And certainly, don't discount this situation with Kyrie Irving and the stress that's put on not just this team, but the organization, the community in Brooklyn. And I think it's more than perhaps any coach would have been able to withstand. We'll see what the Nets do next year, but I think very much they're going to look outside the organization initially and see if there's a coach that makes sense for this group, and we'll see how long this group is going to stay together with the Nets. Certainly a lot of uncertainty, perhaps more change on the horizon, but it started with Steve Nash today, who is out as the Nets coach after 2+ seasons.
Yeah. All right. Our NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski, broke this news about 10